Hello and welcome to my Veritas guide. Previously named Salos, this client has been the preferred choice for many PvPers on shards that have allowed it. One problem I've found with Veritas is that it can be a little daunting and confusing about how to get it going and use it for the first time. Luckily enough, with the new Invictus launcher, it already comes pre-installed and ready to go, so I'll be more going over how it works in-game. Now I'm going to assume you've already downloaded the Invictus launcher. If not, there will be a link in the description to it. Now to launch it, it's pretty simple. You just select Veritas and click play. One thing to note is that you cannot create characters on the Veritas client, so you will have to use CUO to create your account and characters. I'll just launch it now. Log in. Select your character. I'll make it full screen. Now the first thing you're going to notice is that the game window is really small. Now there's two ways you can change it. You can use your Paperdoll options in here. Configuration, display settings, and there's three presets you can change it to. Now if you want to move the game screen, you can hold shift and click the edge to move it. Now if you want a custom resolution, you have to change it in your configuration file, and I'll just go over that now. Just close it down and go to your Invictus launcher folder. Inside the config folder, you have the configuration.xml, and you open that up with a text editor. Now inside the configuration file, we can find the game width and game height attributes that we can change to whatever we want. So I set mine to 1600 by 1000 since I like my game screen pretty big. We can go to save it. Now sometimes you can't currently save it directly to the same file easily as it's protected by admin rights. However, you can just save it to anywhere else in your PC and replace your current configuration file with the one you just made. So I'm just going to save it somewhere else. And then move the file I just created into the same directory as my config file and replace it. Now let's open up Veritas again and see what it looks like. Yeah, so as you can see, the game screen is getting quite a bit bigger now. Now I'm just going to switch over to hybrid to go through the rest of the guide since I already have some characters created on there. Alright, so if you want to add some spell or skill icons, it's pretty simple. You can just open up your spellbook and drag the spell or the skill. Also, on Veritas, a lot of things that you would normally just click or drag are sticky on here and require you to hold down shift. So if you want to say click yourself or someone else, you need to hold down shift to do that. That includes things like moving someone's health bar. Essentially, if something isn't clicking like usual, just try holding down shift. There's also three status bar types in Veritas. You got your small one in your bottom right, or if you click and drag yourself, you've got a bit of a bigger one, and if you double click that one, you get your full character status. Veritas also comes with a bunch of built-in commands. These can be typed out by doing a dot, then a space, then whatever command you want. Say the FPS command, which shows your current FPS. There is a written Veritas guide on the main website, which I will link in the description, which contains a full list of the available commands. Let's go through some options next. So if you just open up your options menu, and we'll go through each section. So for audio, I'd probably turn off footsteps and music since they're kind of annoying. For configuration, you can go to display settings, and so the video settings are pretty personal preference. I like to keep mine on the low. There's also two movement styles. You have animated, which you move around like this, or you have lockstep. I prefer lockstep, for whatever reason. I'd also keep terrain quality above medium because if you put it on low, the guidelines will disappear. So in notoriety hues, pretty simple to change. You just type out whatever hue you want. For your main options, kind of the ones I'd change would be to put always run on, especially if you're PvPing. Clear hands with 4 potion, I'd only put this on if you're a Dexxer using a 2-handed weapon. I would probably turn on the hide trees, which will take into effect when you relog. Notoriety query, I'll turn that off, otherwise you'd receive a gump each time you try and do a criminal action. And queue targets, that's kind of personal preference. If you previously used queue targets on your other client, I'd probably turn it on, otherwise leave it off for now. And siege rule set, put that on to on. Otherwise, if you're red, you won't be able to enter guard zone. So the restocking here, you can change the restock amounts, and if you use the dot space restock command and you click a container with regs and pots in it, and then you click yourself or a bag you have, it'll restock the amount you have set here. For the scavenger, I'd probably turn off the bowlers and regents. If you want to add something to the scavenge list, you just type in .space scavenge all, then click whatever item. And if you want to remove something from the scavenge list, you just type in scavenge remove and remove that item. For the speech hues, it's like notoriety hues, you just click it and type whatever hue you want. Let's look at some hotkeys. So if you go back to configuration and enter macros, you can open up the macro editor. From here, open up the keyboard so you can see your hotkeys a bit easier. You'll probably see a bunch of keys lit up with blue. These are the default keys that come with Veritas. First thing you're going to want to do is delete each of these default keys so you can set up your own. Now when you're setting up hotkeys, if you want to set a key that has no modifier to it, you can select the blank square and click whatever keyboard key you want to set it to, for example T. And if you want to make a macro for say Control T, then you can click the control on the top right, and now any key you set will have a control modifier, for example Control T. If you want to set a key on your mouse, then click the top right area and perform the mouse key to change the hotkey to it, for example wheel up. Now if you try and do a side mouse button and it doesn't pick it up, you may have to use your mouse software to rebind it. Now choose a random hotkey to set a new macro for. I'll be using Alt R, and we'll be creating a macro that we press each time we log in. Now there can be a few different variations to it, but mine's pretty simple. So you want to first open your backpack, and then open the overview, which is the map for Veritas. Then you can turn the reg counter to on, and also display your ping. Now when we press this, we get our backpack, got our map open, see our ping, and we can see our current pots and regs. From here, I'd start setting hotkeys for your spells and skills, which is pretty simple. You just go to whatever key you want, say S. Let's say I want to set a hotkey for Magic Arrow, go to Actions, Cast Spell Mage first, or Magic Arrow. And if I want to use a macro for a skill, I can just go Actions, use Skill, so I want to meditate, and that's a hotkey for meditation. And I'll just go through and set all those hotkeys up. From here, we can get into targeting. The first two hotkeys we want to set is target last and target self. The target last key will be your main targeting key, and it should be on something very easy to press, like your scroll wheel. If you have target cues turned on, then you'll also want to set a key for clear target cue, which can be found here. The next key we're going to set will be the set last target. This is actually a command in Salus. So if you go to a new key and say do the .space target commands, whenever you press this, it will bring up the set last target cursor. One of the main reasons why Veritas is so popular with PvPers is how powerful the targeting system is. Veritas can both hold a beneficial and a harmful target. Depending on what spell or action you have up, will change who you target. Gone are the days when you accidentally e-bolt your friend to death. So when you use set last target on an enemy, it will set them as your harmful target, whereas if you set a friendly target as last target, it will set them as your beneficial target. People are categorized as friends if they're in the same party, in the same guild on a blue, or you make a friend macro and use it like this. So .space friends, and whenever I use this and click someone, it will set them as their friend, as a friend, with a nice little green triangle above their head. So if I set stack and chalk now as last targets, and I cast a spell, I can see that stack has a blue beneficial target below him since he's friended and in party, and there's a red harmful target below chalk since he is not friended or in party. Then when I press last target with this harmful spell up, it will automatically cast on chalk. Now if I cast a beneficial spell, hit last target, it's going to cast it on stack since he is my beneficial target. The other unique benefit of Veritas is that you can use the set last target on someone even if you are off screen, as long as you have their bar. So if I move off screen, you can see I have these two bars, and when I do set last target on chalk, you can see I'm setting him as last target. You can see these messages as we're in party. So I can set stack, chalk, all the way over here, as long as I have their bar. There's two other ways to set someone as last target. which is using target find and target acquire. So if we set these two hotkeys up, so when you use target find, it will set the closest non-friendly as your last target, prioritizing humans. Also, if you are blue, it will not set other blues as target. However, if you are on a red, it will set blues. So since I'm on a blue here, it will set stack as last target since I'm red, but ignore chalk since it's also blue. However, if I use it on my red character, it will target chalk as last target, but it will not set stack since he's a friendly, since he's in guild. Target acquire is basically the same as target find, however it will also automatically drop a spell on the target if you have one up on your cursor, which is basically the same as doing target find and target last. It's also important to note that setting someone as last target with target find and target acquire will set them as your harmful target. You will not be accidentally targeting friendlies using it. Just a note on target queuing. If you don't understand how it works, it's pretty simple. If you have it turned off, you can only use last target when you have something already loaded in your cursor. For example, when I cast this magic arrow, it will only send the target to the server when the spell is loaded. Pressing last target before it's loaded doesn't do anything. Now if you turn target queues on, which can be found here, and press last target, you'll see that when I do last target now, it will come up with last target queued. Doing this will cause the next spell I load to cast automatically on my last target as soon as it's ready. So when I cast magic arrow here, it's just going to automatically go off without me pressing anything there. This is essentially putting a wait for the last target before the last target key. If you press the last target to queue it and change your mind to unqueue it, you need to use your clear target queue macro. The main benefit of using target queues is that you will get used to casting and dropping the spell really fast. One downside is that some people will accidentally queue their target a lot before getting used to the setting. The same effect can also be basically achieved without target queues by just holding down your last target before it comes up. Now let's make some potion hotkeys. Pretty standard stuff here, except there is a thing called smart. Essentially a smart potion acts like a heal potion once you're poisoned, which it will instead cure. You can use this smart pot as a replacement for a heal pot hotkey. However, I'd still recommend having a separate cure pot hotkey, as depending on your ping, you want to press your cure pot just before you're actually poisoned to be able to get a perfect cure off. Smart pot will only cure you if you are poisoned at the exact time you press your hotkey. You can also put the clear moves command on your cure pot, which will clear your game queue. For example, if you smash your strength and refresh potions a bunch of times and queued up to 2 to 3 pots, using clear moves will reduce that queue down to just 1, which can allow you to get a cure pot off faster in certain situations. Another big upside to Veritas is the explosion potion animation, which is a lot clearer than Razor, making it a lot easier to see where it's going to land, and if you're going to miss it, or a bit slow, a bit too fast. I would also just suggest putting clear target queue before the explosion potion hotkey if you have target queues on. You can also easily set hotkeys for each different type of wands. When you use the hotkey, it will automatically find and equip the wand type from your bag. You don't need to manually set each wand with a dress agent like other clients. I'll just go over a few of the other common macros that you probably want to use. In actions, you got bandage self, dismount. The remount of Veritas is really good because you'll remember whatever mount you were last riding and try to remount it. You don't need to manually set it up or anything. In the interface, you got your all names. You probably want to set that up. It's really helpful in PvP to see kind of who's on screen. In items, you got your use by type, for bowler, bandage, definitely want the Moongate key. Use object by ID, it's got some niche uses. For example, you can put the object ID of a scroll before the spell, and if you have the scroll in your bag, it will cast the spell using the scroll first. The use once is another kind of niche thing. You can use that for throwing things like Storm's Idols. In options, you probably want to have a key for toggle hotkeys, and the transparency works, but it's not that great. These other things don't really work either, so don't need to worry about them. In the other, you got your attack last. You really want to set that up because that's what you're going to be using if you want to go for a weapon hit or a stun. You can use the delay macro and repeat macro together to make a bit more advanced macros as well. And the target info, when you use that, it'll display the ID of an object or a person, etc. So I'll just go over a few of the Veritas commands you might want to set up. So the first one's actually in-game command, but it's the bracket trap pouch, which will pop a trap pouch if you have one, which you can actually trap one by targeting yourself. You have your dot space dress, and if you ever end up dying for some reason, which you technically shouldn't if you're on Veritas, but if you do, using this command will re-equip any items you were wearing before you died. You have your dot space drag to bag. This will bring up a hotkey that'll click something and put in your backpack, good for looting corpses. You have your dot space remove, which will remove any static you click. So let's say you're a thief and someone's covering stuff up in your backpack, or someone's on a rune book, and you can just use the resynchronize to bring it back. You've also got some commands like give recall, which will give someone to reach recall, or give gates. You can also use the leapfrog command. If you put something in your cursor and you type in dot space leapfrog, then you put the item on the floor and you can kind of move it around. This is really handy if you want to move something really heavy around, so you just looted Tet's bag or something. It's not too bad. If you want to make a macro to recall a gate to a rune you have on you, it's pretty simple. You just make a command that says dot space recall, then whatever rune it is. So I have a rune on me called Cove, just the back. Now whenever I press this hotkey, it will try and recall me to that rune. You can also do the same thing with, say, gate, Cove. Another unique feature of Veritas is the cutoff system. Essentially any rune in a rune book you have on you, or that you are nearby, will show up as a white circle on the map, as you can see here. And when you try and double click the circle, it will try and recall you there. And if you control shift it, it'll try and gate you. Now this becomes really powerful when you're in a party, because when you control click someone's bar in a party, you go to them on the map. And as you can see, I have a rune over to where he is. Now I can just double click this rune, and I'll recall straight there. Now if you want to get the map to follow you again, you can just control left click yourself. So going for stuns on Veritas is pretty easy. You just set a hotkey to turn on your stun, you can toggle it on and off. Then you set your enemy as your last target by target find or set last target. Then you just do attack last target and run in for a stun. As you can see, it makes a sound and he goes all red as well. Makes it easier to see who's stunned. So using a Dexxer on Veritas is pretty simple. You want to have 3 hotkeys to set. Your arm, your disarm, and your set equipment. So you'll use the set equipment key to set whatever weapon you're going to use, and obviously you'll press your arm key to arm it, and if you want to disarm, you press your disarm. And as you can see, there's a few different slots you can make for multiple weapons. But if you're playing a Dexxer, you would just set the enemy as last target, attack last, and run in for a hit. Playing a team on Veritas is actually really simple as well. All you do is you make all the Tamer commands, so you do all stay, all follow me, all guard me, etc. And if you want to use peacemaking or provo, you just have a hotkey for that. If you want to make a more kind of advanced kind of bandaging macro, it's not too bad as well. You just do say bandage, wait for target, target last, delay macro 5 seconds, repeat macro. That will just keep bandaging a beneficial target every 5 seconds, and then you probably want to have another hotkey for stop macros, which will stop this repeat. I'm just going to show off some of the spell animations before we finish, as it's one of the big reasons Veritas is used in PvP so much. So when a spell animation in Veritas hits is when the damage hits as well. The target moving doesn't have an impact on it. So when our arrows stack here, even when he moves around, it won't actually affect when the damage hits. So you can see as the animation hits is when the damage hits as well. Due to this, you can do things like healing an E-Bolt sync by just the animation of the E-Bolt alone, which you can't really do on clients like Razor. I think the spell animations in general just look better. So for example, you have the lightning. This looks a lot better than the stock standard UA ones. You also have other spells like, say, Meteor Swarm. You can also see the AoE of the spell if it's a AoE spell. And just that kind of animations alone is just a lot better. So that about wraps it up. I'd still suggest looking at the Written Veritas guide, which has the full list of commands on it. But I hope that helped a little bit, and I'll see you on Invictus.